really have to thank the anti-Islam campaign that is happening across social media right now because it is giving me endless opportunities to share the truth about Islam. Assalamu alaikum. I'm an American who converted to Islam, here to correct what you think you know. Today we're going to be addressing their current favorite talking point of the term right hand possesses and tell you what that actually means and what it meant for the people who were possessed. The anti-Islam campaign is using it as a slave, when in reality it was more aligned with a prisoner of war because these were female opponents in the army who were attacking Muslims, and then instead of being physically harmed, they were held captive as their punishment. This is the only time female slaves existed in Islam. It was only during this time of war, and it was because it was a punishment for fighting Muslims. This is talked about in Surah 47, verse 4, talking about the right hand possesses, and it states, later free them either as an act of grace or by ransom until the war comes to an end. At the end of the war, these female captives were either freed, traded so that the Muslim army could get their own prisoners of war back, or some of them chose to marry into the tribe. Because again, it's only applied during times of war. The term is milk yamin, and Islam cut off all other routes of this outside of the battlefield. These females were prisoners of war, not sex slaves or slaves of any kind, really. The females got this punishment instead because it is forbidden to harm women, children, the elderly, the disabled, or even animals during times of war. Because they couldn't be harmed, there had to be another punishment for them, which was captivity. This is referenced in the Bukhari collection of hadith in the book of Jihad, and I will show it on the screen here for you. And once these people were captive, they were given the option to buy their freedom, whether their tribe paid for it, they paid for it personally, or Muslims were actually encouraged to help them buy their freedom. Can you imagine that? Someone's coming to attack you and then you're encouraged to help free them from their punishment. There were also conditions in place saying that they had to be treated well while they were in captivity, according to this Quran verse here. This is beyond merciful. Then these same people will try to claim that the female captives were forced into relations or marriages from their captors, but that's entirely false. It was encouraged to the Muslims to marry these captives to give them protection and give them a better quality of life, but those marriages were not valid unless both parties consented. And you cannot have those types of relations outside of a marriage in Islam. This is a unanimous fatwa, which I will put on the screen here, as well as the Hadith and Quran verses that support this same topic. And here is more Hadith. It's also been noted that many former captives actually ended up embracing Islam because of how humanely they were treated while they were under captivity. And some former captives ended up being heads of state in Islamic rule, like the Mamluk in Egypt ruled for 600 years. You can look into that. It's pretty cool. So let's go ahead and compare Islamic rules with some modern examples of Christian armies. In World War II, for example, there are between 100,000 to 1 million reports of sexual assault against German women committed by a Christian army. And then, of course, you have the Crusades with the massacres of civilians in Jerusalem, where it was described that the streets were running with blood. And the Spanish conquest of the Americas, where you have forced conversions, mass unalivings, and mass SA. Lovely. And then we come to the 19th and 20th century colonial wars, where you have Belgium to Congo, France to Algeria, and Britain to Kenya and India, all of which contain mass SA, torture, and collective punishment. Those Christian values? So if you're going to attempt to critique Islam, be prepared to be corrected, because all you ever seem to come with is lies, lack of reading comprehension, and ignorance to the history of your own faith.